and I'm very happy to be able to give you a little tour of our application today. I'm going to start off by giving you a brief introduction to OpenSAP with a few PowerPoint slides, and then we're actually going to create an app together. And it's going to be a pretty cool calculation app with lots of interesting features. All right, so let's dive right in. Well, we at OpenSAP think that one of the biggest challenges today is mobility. And that probably is the reason why so many of you are listening right now, because everybody seems to be talking about mobile business, but the reality is that dedicated business apps are still very rare. And the reason for that is that building apps today, as you all know probably, still is very expensive and also very time-consuming. So basically only developers or power users who know their way around development tools can actually do it themselves. But at the same time, there are incredible amounts of data stored in your systems and Excel sheets. And this is where OpenSAP comes in. OpenSAP is a cloud service and helps you very quickly create and instantly share business apps. And these apps can be created directly from your existing data. That means you can leave the Excel spreadsheet that you've been using, for years maybe, on your server, in your SharePoint, wherever you keep your data, and you'll have a native app that runs on iOS, Android, and Windows, also Windows Desktop, within minutes. And soon you'll also be able to run it in your browser, by the way, and we'll announce that in the coming weeks. We think that creating business apps from your business data should be as easy as creating a PDF file. No matter if you want to mobilize and share your lists or your calculations or whatever you have as an Excel file. And we think we have a solution for that. And to prove that to you, I'm going to transform an Excel into an app in a minute. But let me just say a few words about how that works first without getting too technical. So basically, we extract the logic from the file, like formulas, functions, format, and so on. And we can do something that no one else can do. We are able to handle calculated data and even recalculations of it. So in short, that means you build your spreadsheet as always, and then you just specify the input fields and output fields, that is to say the variables that you're interested in, specify those to our app creator, and that creator then does the rest for you. And if the spreadsheet changes, the app changes as well automatically. So that way you don't need to actually write any code or such. You could basically see us as a kind of mobile interface with extra features for Excel. Okay, but enough with the theory. Let's actually build something right now. What I'm going to do is first I'll show you the original spreadsheet, and then we'll go through the creation process. And finally, we'll take a look at the finished app. And the whole process, I think, will take just a few minutes. So let me just switch to our website here. Okay, this is our landing page, opensap.net. And you get to the app creator by clicking on the orange button here. The app creation starts with you picking your data source. This could be almost anything, like a file on your PC, maybe, or a file on your server, or one in the cloud of your choice, either some normal cloud like Google Sheets or Dropbox, or on premises. For this demonstration, I will use one of our sample files in our company SharePoint, and those are over here. And the file that's going to be the basis of our app today is called License Calculator, a little calculation in Excel. This one here. Also, if later on you would like some more example files to build your first apps with yourself, you'll find quite a few more example files here that you can use, and you get some help as well. But now let's take a closer look at the file itself so you know what to expect from the app later. Now, first off, let me add that we can, of course, handle much more complex spreadsheets than this, but for the sake of demonstration, I'll use this file. Now, what you see here is a kind of like an offer calculator. The green fields up here are the variables, and the blue ones down here are the dependent variables. Just to talk you through what's going on here, for example, you make an offer of 10 desktop licenses of some software, for example, and 20 mobile licenses of some other software. And you give a discount of 3%, and you agree on a service level with your customer. This can be changed, and then the following prices will come up because of that. Those are the dependent variables. Now here in this tab you have the different kinds of service levels, and then here you have a tab called Offer, and that contains basically a print sheet. These numbers here depend on what we do in the calculation tab here. All right, so let's see. In order to use this, I'm going to click on Use here. Now, in this very first step, we're now asked to confirm that this is actually the spreadsheet we would like to work with. What the server did here was just quickly analyze the sheet, and it now shows us a representation of the sheet in the browser. And all we have to do is just choose the tab we want to start the creation process with. Now, in this case, I'm probably not going to start with the second sheet, but with the first sheet. So I click on this tab here, and then click on OK. And the wizard now immediately analyzes the structure and the data of the file in order to be able to recommend the right app template in the next step. And as you might expect here, because of the formulas in the file we just looked at, the wizard correctly suggests we use a template called calculation. And this template will give us special features during the creation process and also during later on in the app. You'll see what I mean by that in a minute. So this is the correct template, and I'm going to say OK. And now this here is the most important step along the way. This is actually really interesting and a really cool idea. And as you'll see, it's surprisingly simple as well. Now, on the left side, you can see our spreadsheet again. And on the right side, there's going to be the preview of our app. Now, basically, you already did your programming in Excel, right? And, programming in quotation marks. And by that, I mean you define the logic of your calculation in Excel in the form of formulas. And you also input all the necessary data there. So we're already set, basically. So now the only thing that's left to do is to create a link from your spreadsheet to the app, to let the app know what it is supposed to display and how the formulas work. And you do that by clicking on the relevant cells in your spreadsheet, the ones you would like to change in the app and the ones you would like to observe accordingly. In other words, you mark your input and output variables. So let's do that. Now, like I said, the green ones are interesting. I'm going to click on those, and the blue ones. Now, you might have noticed as soon as we add an element to our app that way, the preview on the right displays one more item. And also note that the preview automatically recognized the difference between input and output fields, right? You can tell that by the color. It also automatically recognizes the data types. Like we have integers here, percentage, this is a string, and these are currencies. And it also recognized the correct titles here. A little too small to read maybe, but it does recognize the correct titles even though I've never clicked on those cells. So this makes things much easier for users without any technical knowledge. All right, so now we have basically defined the logic of our app already. So let's go ahead to the next step. And by the way, don't forget that you can always come back here and make changes. So there's no need to be perfect at this stage. Everything can be undone, basically. Now, the preview here is actually more than just a preview. When you hover over these elements here, you'll notice all these little symbols popping up. And when you click on this pencil symbol here for this element, the editor of this element opens up. Now, we can make a lot of changes here. That very much depends on the kind of element we're looking at. But here, In the main section, we can, for example, rename the title of the element. We can change the data, the type that is displayed here. We can set, the lower limits and the higher limits of the integer in this case that is displayed here. If you click on data, you'll find the address in the Excel spreadsheet. This is basically a reference to the correct cell that is being displayed here, and you can change that if you want to. In the style section, you can change, the size of the cell. You can change the value of the font size and the background color and everything you want. And then, if you know your way around XML, you might also want to make changes in the XML itself. Now, let's say you've made changes and you're happy. Then, of course, you just click on the little check mark, and you're done. Now, at this point here, the user interface of our app still is a little confusing. We need to scroll up and down a lot to see everything, and it's not great to use yet. But we can fix that easily by just clicking here on Rearrange Elements on the left side. Now, every one of these little boxes here represents one of the elements of the app. We can change the order of these elements by simply dragging and dropping them into a different position like that. Or we can group them together, and I'm going to do that here with these two by just dragging and dropping them onto each other like that. Now let's take a look at the preview to see what effect this had. And as you can see, the two elements here are now arranged next to each other. We could do this a few more times to better use the space in the app and make everything more readable at a glance. So that would be a great option to make the thing look better and be more usable. Now, you can also do something else here. If you click on Rearrange Elements, you can also add a new page up here. If you click on New Page, and then you can name the page. I'm just going to name it Second, like Second Page. And then you have a second page, and you can, put some of those elements onto the second page, maybe. Now, in this case here, you might remember that in the original spreadsheet, there were charts. And as you can see here, the Add Chart menu option has this green little button here that says To Detected. And that means that the wizard recognized two charts in the original spreadsheet. So I'm going to try to add two charts from the original spreadsheet to the second page that I just created. I'm going to click on it. Now, these were detected and can now be imported with just one single click on that button on the right-hand side. And colors and titles and values and everything was recognized automatically and will be used in the app. But of course, it's optimized for mobile use. So it won't look exactly the same, but it's going to look great and be perfect for use on the road. So I'm just going to click on Import here for this first chart. And there it is already. There we have our chart in the preview. The great thing is that this chart is not static. This is very important. This chart is not static. It will now react instantly to changes of the variables above. So later on, we'll have a dynamic chart. To make things easier for you, we advise you to create your charts in the Excel sheet before you build your app. But you can also insert them manually if you want, of course. Yeah, but in many cases, you already have the charts in your sheet, so that's perfect. Now let me just add the second chart. Just going to click on Add Chart again, and then on Import. And there it is. Now I'm going to hover over it and click on the pencil and open the editor for this chart. And as you can see here, these charts are a feature that we're constantly working on, and you'll see much more of these in the near future. You can change the chart type here. I'm going to change this to a donut chart just for fun. Let's take a look, and it's a donut chart. All right. And I'm going to click on the editor button again. Now you could, just like in the other editor that I showed you earlier, change the title here. Take a look at the area that contains the data that is the basis of this chart. Can change the style of this chart, and of course, mess around with the XML if you want to. And now, to make another change and to show you the effect, if I click on this toggle here, Show Data Marker, and say OK, it's not going to display any numbers anymore. And if I just undo my change and click on the check mark, you'll see that it does display numbers. So these are really practical and easy to use features. Now, we would probably like to use this calculator on the road, in meetings with customers and so on. And in that situation, we might want to make the customer an offer based on what we just calculated in our app on the first page, and then send this to him directly by email. And that can be done very easily just by clicking on print functionality here on the left side. And then you simply have to pick the sheet of your Excel file that you prepared beforehand to be the print sheet. In our case, I'm going to pick it. It's offer. Okay, and that's it. I'll show you in the app what this does. Now, in addition to the things I just showed you, there are a few more features available in the menu on the left, as you might have seen. And we're going to talk about those in future webinars. I think we've covered the most important basics for now. So let's say we are happy with the design of the app and go to the next step. And now, all that's left to do here, basically, is to choose a name for your app up here, and maybe add a description for the people you share the app with, but that's optional. So, okay, we're almost done, as a matter of fact. Let me just bring up my phone real quick. So as you can see here, on my phone, I already have the OpenSAP host app installed on my device, and I'm already logged in into my account. And let me just bring that up real quick. And now I'll simply click on the Create My App button on the website. This might actually take a few seconds, especially now that I'm sharing my screen with you. Might be a little slower. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I think the internet connection might be a little slow today. Let's see if it comes up a little later. Let me see. I've already done 2 today, so I can show you this as a little compensation. I'm very sorry. It might pop up in a minute. Very much depends on the internet connection. So this would now be the app that we just built. And if I hadn't explained every single step along the way, I think the whole process wouldn't have taken longer than a minute or 2. So, you know, I was talking the whole time, so a minute I think would be fair. So it's really, really quick. Now, if you're a new user of OpenSAP, 2 things might have happened at this point. Before the app is actually created, you will be prompted to create an account for yourself, or log in if you already have one, of course. And you'll have to do that before you try out your first app. But it's free and shouldn't be a problem at all. Also, you'll have to install the OpenSAP host app on your device, of course, since all the apps that you will create from now on will run inside that host app. That shouldn't be a problem either. It's available in all app stores and is free of charge and free of advertising. But that's it. After those 2 steps, you're good to go. Now, let me just say a few words about the host app. The host app that this runs in right now is a great way to run your apps, because this way they can actually be rolled out within seconds, whether your data or the logic changes. And that might be the case on a daily basis, or you make changes to the user interface of your app. You don't have to wait for Apple or anybody else to authorize your app or anything like that. You just publish it, and that's it. Your changes will be in effect immediately. Okay, but let's take a look at the app for now. Do you recognize the data from the original spreadsheet? Keep in mind, no matter how cool this looks now, that this used to be a simple Excel file. And this is so much better for the use on the road. Now, here we can simply make changes to the input fields, order 23 of that, and desktop license 12, maybe give 25% discount. And this is, remember the selection of the service levels. The string here can be changed. Let's say service level 2. And of course, these output fields here change accordingly. Now, the same is true if you tap on the second tab that I named second for the charts. These are constantly being recalculated as well and look great. And keep in mind, we didn't do anything to them. We just added them with one click. So we can do a lot about the appearance, but this works fine already. Now imagine we're done negotiating with our customer, and we would like to send him that offer that we were talking about earlier, and that we defined on the first page of our app. To do that, just click on the menu button on the right-hand corner, and among the other options, you'll find the print functionality right here. And click on that, and then generate a PDF by clicking Print as PDF right here. And the application now very quickly uses the current settings of the app to calculate the predefined print sheet. That's what I chose in the wizard a minute ago. And within seconds, we have an individualized offer ready. And keep in mind that this can actually be, this is done in Excel. So you could do that yourself. The salespeople can do that themselves. You don't have to talk to IT people for your reporting. It's not necessary. You can actually let an intern do that if you don't want to do that. This is really easy to do. And of course, this could also be sent to the customer via email if you choose this option. And then the PDF will be attached to the email. Now, you can also, using the menu, save your settings. Let's say you've made changes and you want to keep them and take a look at them later. Then you just name your changes and save them here. You can also drop a comment for your colleagues that you share this app with and collaborate with them more effectively that way. And of course, if you like an app or use an app very much, you can always add it to your favorites as well. And that way, in this case, of course, it's already added to the favorites. That way, it'll always be there with the most used apps, and you'll always find it right away. But this all is basically just a taste of what is possible with OpenSAP. We just took a minute to build this. And this is a very simple calculator. And if you look around in your companies, I'm sure you'll find lots of similar and also much more complex files that we can use. Now, you can search for more apps on the left side of the host app. Take a look at this. In the main menu there, you can find your own apps that you build and also those that were shared with you. And you can take a look at the Demo Hub. And here you'll find a number of examples of the many different kinds of apps you can build with OpenSAP. There are sophisticated dashboards, there are map applications, there are calculations, there are lists, and complex combinations of all these app types. And we will explain to you how to build these in later webinars, and you are very welcome to join us for those as well. Now let me just show you, because we're talking about calculations today, an example for a list. This one, you might have heard that in an earlier webinar already, but this is just basically a real big flat list in an Excel spreadsheet that's really tedious to use on the road. And here we have a basic overview with all the data that is necessary for you on the road, and then you just click on one of the data sets and you get a detail dialog that gives you all the information you need. And we take advantage of phone functionality here. This, for example, used to be a simple number in a column in a spreadsheet, and now we can make a phone call using that. And of course, because there was geodata in there, we get this little map here. And then, of course, automatically generated, there is a map that displays all the data sets from that list. And you can get details just by clicking on the needle, on that pin. And then, of course, we have all kinds of different dashboards. Let's take a look at this one, for example. With this toggle here, you can go through different months, for example, and get all the KPIs for that month, and then get charts, for example. So those are two examples of what we can do. There's a lot more, though. But now I'd like to say a few more words about OpenSAP in general, and I'll switch back to my slides real quick. So you've seen that you can create a mobile app from a file that you maybe use on a daily basis with just a few clicks. And as mentioned, this app runs natively on iOS, Android, Windows, and very soon also on your browser. Updates of the underlying spreadsheet, this is very important. That might be in your Dropbox or wherever, will be reflected in the app instantly. So you will never have to deal with old versions of Excel files again. And going through email attachments, looking for the current version of something becomes a thing of the past, because there now is only one version of the truth on your server. Now, these are just a few examples. Our service is brand new, but we closely work together with a number of big companies like insurances, car manufacturers, logistics companies, and so on. And we have learned a lot about their needs so far. For them, it's all about easy rollout, reporting, and security. And that's basically what we are good at. And no matter if it's for your HR department, your sales department, your controlling maybe, or your management, and so on, there are use cases for Openness App everywhere and for everybody in your company. Here's another example, a finance report based on Excel. We simply converted the reporting from Excel into an app, so now the interested public gets its reporting as an always up-to-date app. And I'm sure you have plenty of spreadsheets like that in your company as well. There's a column for every month, and by inserting one extra column that switches between months, we can actually display all the data conveniently in just one page of the app. This can be done very quickly in Excel, by the way, by using three things. Number one, data validation. It's done really quickly. And then the match function and the index function. So again, the programming in quotation marks is done in Excel, and it's really easy. But we're not just about the display of data like other tools. We also enable real-time calculations, like, for example, best case, worst case scenario simulations. Many of the big companies we're working with are looking for exactly that. Now, in this app, there are several pages of interdependent calculations, and they're combined with list pages providing detailed information. By interdependent, I mean that you can change the variables and everything else changes accordingly. At the end, you can even save your simulations to the cloud, the settings of those to the cloud. And as you can see here, you end up with a very rich dashboard. In fact, we're the only solution on the market that gives you BI dashboards on the basis of live calculations. Whenever you make changes on your device, the charts react instantly. But so far, I've only talked about Excel as the data source for apps, but maybe the most exciting part about Openness App is that the app generation can be integrated into existing systems and processes. That way you can update your app and immediately receive the most current data directly from your SAP, Salesforce, SharePoint, whatever system you're using. In this case, for example, we implemented a button in Microsoft Dynamics CRM. And this a button lets the user instantly create an app within a few seconds and automatically. Imagine a print as PDF button, only that it doesn't produce a PDF file, but an app. And the app can then even be updated later on. And that way is the perfect mobile front end for this system. Now, let me sum up the main arguments for Openness App again for you. Now, apps can now be created directly by the department that needs them. If you have an event coming up, for example, and you decide in a meeting in the morning that you would like to have an app for all participants, you'll have the app rolled out by lunchtime that same day. On the other hand, in conventional app development, one of the most time-consuming tasks is the requirements engineering. That is to say, finding out what the customer, maybe you in that case, wants, and what exactly his Excel sheet does, if there already is one. And you as a customer have to explain every formula and every detail to the IT guy, who in return knows nothing about your business. And it's only after this tedious reverse engineering process that the actual app can be built, and as you probably know, this can take months as opposed to hours with Openness App. As mentioned, OpenS app runs on all devices, iOS, Android, Windows, and soon your browser. And because of it being a real native app, the usability is great, and the app even works offline. As mentioned, OpenS app runs on all platforms. Oh, I'm sorry, I said that. Instead of mailing around complex Excel reports that are way too complicated, can be broken, or are out of date every week, just share an app once with selected people. It then displays exactly and only what is interesting to the recipient. And this app will, from then on, always be up to date. And the sharing is not an issue anymore because your colleagues already have it on their phones or their tablets or their computers. And after sharing once, data security is not an issue anymore. And once you've done that, you won't have to worry about who is able to see what anymore. The user of the app only sees what he or she is supposed to see, nothing else. Even the logic behind the numbers is hidden. The app is kind of like a black box. So you could actually roll out your Excel sheets to your customers. And also the app does not display any of the data irrelevant or forbidden for a specific user. And additionally, your apps can be made expirable, which means that they just cannot be used anymore after a certain amount of time, or after an employee of yours, a user of the app, leaves the company, for example. And you're in full of control of that as well. All right, that's it for me for now. Thank you so much for your attention so far, and I think we have time for some questions now, right, Angelika?
Yeah, thank you, Bastian. And we have some questions, and I've sent them up. So I think we start with some questions around Excel. And the first question is, how does Excel need to be installed on the mobile device itself?
Excel does not need to be installed on the mobile device itself. Also, I think it's important to note here that I'm always talking about Excel here, but we can of course also use different kinds of spreadsheets, derivatives of Excel, like Google Sheets, for example.
Next question is, what happens if the spreadsheet changes? Say you would add a column and cells would get displaced.
Yeah, that's something that that very much depends on the changes you make. If you insert like a new column, for example, and then the addresses of the data change, the data that you use in the app, and then something used to be in column M and now it's in column O or something, that of course can lead to some problems, and then you would have to make some manual changes in the app. But therefore there are some workarounds. We suggest that you name areas in your spreadsheet and reference those, and that way you're completely flexible. And also, if the data within the Excel spreadsheet changes, a 7 becomes an 8 in the same cell, for example, that's not a problem. Then the app simply displays the new data. So you need to be a little careful when changing the architecture, but not when changing the data.
Next question, does the app creator recognize all Excel formulas or even macros?
Okay, so yeah, two-part question. Now, about the Excel formulas, we can do about 90% of the Excel formulas that there are, but that's a huge amount, so we can tackle most problems, I think, with those 90%. And then macros we cannot do. We cannot work with macros, but very important to note here, we have in the real world not yet encountered a problem that we could not tackle with formulas. Of course, many customers use macros, but that can usually be easily replaced with formulas. And we would, in theory, be able to use macros. And the reason we don't support macros is that we want to be cross-platform, a cross-platform solution. And for us, for our framework that is provided by Microsoft, we simply don't have the option to actually use macros on all platforms. So that's why.
Mm-hmm. So now we're leaving Excel. Next question is, can I push back data into my backend systems?
The answer is yes, you can. A couple of ways. The most obvious way would be to, add new data or change data in the existing spreadsheet. So you could, for example, make changes that are then effective for everybody, and that of course reflects in the, central Excel sheet on your server. You could also be on the road and add new, for example, new lines to your list. That would be possible. And then, of course, also the possibility to actually send like JSON files to the server.
Okay. Next question is there a test demo? And how long can I test OpenSAP for?
Yeah, well, the licensing lets you get an account right now. Everybody who's listening could get an account now for free, just for themselves, and that way you can try out everything you want to try out. You can use our demo files and everything, and that's for free and unlimited. Of course, once you need more users and want more support and more features, you'll have to pay, but you can try out for free.
Okay. Once I've made changes to my app, how will users I've shared my app with be aware of my changes of the updated app?
Yeah, that's a very good question. That's pretty easy actually, because there's going to be a notification once you enter the app. When you open the app, you'll be notified by a little pop-up that there is a new version available, and you will have the option to download that or skip the download. Also, you can manually do an update by just clicking on the menu button and then searching for an update, and that usually updates the app in like 3 seconds.
Okay, there is another participant who's asking, he's got confidential data in his Excel sheet, and does he need to save those confidential data to the cloud?
Yeah, that might actually be a German participant. That, of course, is something that we are very aware of. Okay, so security is very important to us. Many customers ask about that. That's usually a question that comes up. And there is a couple of answers. This is a very complicated topic, but and we can get in touch later on and discuss that more in detail. But I can tell everybody that this is a major concern of ours, and we always say that we can basically be as secure as the IT of our customer. To be more precise, the data that you build your first app with, for example, will never be stored on our server, and it will not be in our cloud if you host it in your own cloud or leave it on your server. And you can, of course, always create an app with dummy data. And after the creation process, OpenSAP, our servers are completely out of the picture. And after that, you can just update with real productive data, and the communication is just going to be between your server or your cloud and your mobile device. So we are completely out of the picture.
Well, thank you, Bastian. We have reached the end of today's webinar. Thank you for being with us today. We will email you a link to our presentation, the webinar video, and the answers to all the questions. You find the app license calculator in the demo apps of your app client. The Excel sheet corresponding to that app that we have used is in the sample files section of the app creator. There are also more files in the sample section, so you can play around with app creation a little bit before using your own files. If you need help while creating your app, just click on the help button. There are many articles, and also you can post us a message and we will help you. We hope you've enjoyed the webinar. Have fun with app creation. Take care and bye-bye.